Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this week's VIN-dow with Robert Hollinshead. Hey, good day, Bob.
Top of the morning to you, everybody, and Shawnee, me boy. How are you?
Pretty good, pretty good. I know we've been kind of watching the UAW strike or whatever the union's called for the big three, and you brought up something I hadn't really thought of, so I was wondering if we could do a quick public service announcement, as it were, for a spinoff could be in effect, something just to be aware of.
Yeah. Well, a couple things. One, the market really, from my perspective, it hasn't gone up, and it definitely hasn't gotten any evidence that people are dying to buy cars, other than a few, pickup trucks here or there that look like they might go in short supply. But I don't see any kind of a major push there in any way, shape, or form. At the same time, for being this time of the year where it's always like a disaster in wholesale, changing model years and all the rest of the things, and typically, with major rebates to get rid of the past year and all the rest of that stuff, it really hasn't gotten worse. So and when I'm talking about that, it's the cars that we typically handle, a 30, 40, 50, $80,000 car. Junk continues to be, I think, very high in comparison to what you would normally see at this time of the year. That's my personal point of view. But what I was thinking about actually last week when it hit me, our shop manager mentioned that, and I didn't think about it. It was like an oblique thing. You're not going to get parts. So if you're not going to get parts, like parts start to go, forget it. You can't get a part, like a dumb part, like something that, a part, like anything. That's a disaster. So it ain't just a disaster for what we do. Imagine the service department and what that's going to do. That could be something that is, when before there was chips, there was no chips because nobody knew what a chip was. Then all of a sudden, chips become like bread and butter. Everybody knows what a chip is. Uh, Parts, like who cares about parts? What's the difference? Parts. They got aftermarket parts. They got things, right? But when you stop and think about this, if you can't get parts, you're in the body business and you're not getting X or Y. It's some thing. It's a switch on the thing of something. And you can't put the car back together. That's a disaster. If you've got a car in for service, whether it's warranty or not, and it's a switch of a thing on the side of the, what do you call it? Who knows what? And you can't get it. What's your next move, big shot? In other words, that's crippling. A car that goes into arbitration for some unknown reason. A fart was on the left side of the rear seat, but you need a part to fix it. How you going to do that, right? So it's, in my opinion, it's a cross-sectional looming like mess. If this thing happens to be, and it might waste the master, who knows how long. The genius flew over there, babbled a couple things in the microphone, after flying US, one there, cost us probably $200 million to fly the jet there for him to babble to 27 people at the strike and then go home. All and that, when you think about this, if it lasts something and you can't, forget the cars. Who cares about cars? Because if you can't get the parts, you're not doing nothing. And that, to me, will reveal itself relatively shortly, if I'm not mistaken. Hopefully it won't, because everybody has plenty of parts, but I doubt it. The last time that occurred for us was when the Lexus RXs first went to the new lights. You follow me? In other words, when they went to the fancy lights on the new body style RX, that's probably who knows what, 10 or 12 or 15 years ago, right? And what happened was everybody was actually stealing the headlights out of RXs. And in those days we used to have 100 Lexuses at the auction, so a pile of them were very close to new. We got wiped out one day where I think we had like 30 headlights just stolen. They crimped the fenders and somehow popped the headlights out. And I guess, we were buying them back from whoever was stealing them on eBay, right? Because you couldn't get them. They were on back order. So there you got a $42,000 or 20 or 30 $42,000 cars laying around that you're waiting on back order to get the headlights. So from my perspective, that was like a tattoo in the brain that kind of makes this thing get someplace close to being potentially a disaster. Um, you got late model, who knows what kind of car that everything breaks on them, right? From transmissions that do things and all, and now you can't get a part. Does that make sense to you, Shawnee? I mean, to me, that
Yeah.
could be a mess, man. And how do you solve that? Uh, you're not going to retail the car because it's not running because of the part. You follow me? You're not going to fix it in the service department. Now you got everybody screaming. In my estimation, the net result of this, we don't have a solution for it. The net result is they're going to buy a Toyota, they're going to buy a Nissan, they're going to buy a Kia or a Hyundai. No question in my mind about that, because nobody's going to put up with the idea that some sort of Mickey Mouse part you can't get, and now you're going to leave your car in the service department for the next 8 years waiting for the part to show up while you're making payments and walking to work. You know what I mean? I don't picture that working out too good. And like I say, the alternative is, and there is an alternative. You're just not going to buy a GM, Ford, or Chrysler product, which that ultimately becomes the ultimate disaster, because once you've actually drove a Toyota after being in a Ford, there's zero chance of going back and buying a Ford. So you basically have crippled the last little tiny bastion of manufacturing that we have in the country. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to be like a doomsdayer, but when you think about it, it's different than just I want more money per hour or work 1 day a week and get all the benefits or something. It's different than that. This has, I think, really bad potential consequences for what we do for a living. You know what I mean? That's all. I don't think anybody cares about it, Shawnee. It was on my head, so I figured I'd blurt it out. You know what I mean?
Thank you, Bob. Have a good week, everyone.
My pleasure, everybody. Have fun, Shawnee. Thank you, my friend.